Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to a summer sessions with WTFC. We are so excited to have you joining us today. This is going to be our final session. Shelley, you're going to be the grand finale for everybody. Oh man, I'm excited to do today's episode. Thank you for taking some time to listen. Shelley, thank you for taking some time to record with me and go through this. I think that a lot of people have heard your story kind of through bits and pieces and sections that you've shared, but I'm excited to kind of go through a larger portion of this story today and share with people. Can you start by telling the listeners, how did you get into transportation? What's your origin into this crazy industry?
Well, I was the daughter of a truck driver, so it's always been there. I was always fascinated with trucks, even from a young age. So I think it kind of like the bug kind of ignited then.
Okay. And so when you were, what's the kind of earliest memory that you have of seeing her in a truck or getting ready for work or whatever that would be?
I think that would probably be about, I was in grade 1 or 2, I think, when I really started to understand what my dad did.
Okay, that's cool. And so what's your recollection of that? Do you remember being interested? Do you remember being kind of indifferent about it? What do you recall?
Oh, I was always interested in it. And, when he had the truck at the house, or we'd go and meet him at the yard because my dad had his own truck. Um, we'd be up and into it. And let me tell you, that old Mac is way different than the trucks that are out on the road today.
I believe that. I believe that. Sorry, I thought that you had said that your mom was a driver. Was it your mom or your dad?
My dad,
Okay, I misheard that the first time. Very, very cool. How long was he a driver for? Kind of the majority of your childhood?
he was for a good chunk. My dad had a heart attack at an early age. And it was so severe that his license was downgraded, and then he had to find other paths in life.
Right, very interesting. So, as you were coming into your career, what was the thought process like for you? Where did you start? Did you come directly into transportation?
No, I can tell you, like through high school, I worked in a donut shop that was owned by a couple of police officers. So
No
that's
way. That's
yes,
so
it was.
stereotypically great.
Yep. They were really nice guys, and it was my first break at something other than babysitting, which is what a lot of young girls did back in the day, and or delivering newspapers. And I worked in this donut shop, and I was so excited to get this job. And I can remember we went to a group of us had went. This was up in the Newmarket area, so we went to Keswick to a beach party, and I was supposed to work the next morning, and I woke up on the beach. Um, yeah, and
On the
the
beach, in the sand, in the
yes,
dunes, like on a
on the beach.
towel.
No, on the beach in the sand, and looking up at this police officer, thinking, "Oh my God, my dad's going to kill me when I get home." To the officer removing his glasses, and it was my boss.
No.
Yes, right. And he's like, didn't your shift start an hour ago? So, needless to say, I got a ride to work in the back of a cruiser. Yes, cleaned up, made to work, my shift. And I was so hungover. I was 17, and, I shouldn't have been, I'm not legal age to drink, but just severely hungover at work. And he come back in close to the end of the shift, and he goes, "Have you learned your lesson?"
So not worry, I absolutely did. Like, oh
That
no.
was it, right? Like, never did that again, right? That was a hard lesson to learn, right? But hey, then I got smart enough to know there was a point to cut off because, like you have to go to work, right? So,
Yeah.
but I think we've all been young and have done that at least once where we've gone into work either still drunk or hungover because, it's just the way it fell. We were having a good time and lost track of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got older, I thought I was going to go into healthcare. I thought I was going to be like, you know, and I did this, a bit of time as a healthcare aide, which is like today's PSW. This is what they call them
Mm-hmm.
now. But I couldn't stand the way that seniors were being treated in the home, and knew that if I continued on in that job, I was probably gonna kill somebody and then end up in jail because of how they treated a senior. So it was not a good work environment. Um, I ended up lodging a complaint with the ministry back in the day against the home that I was working in, um, just because how seniors were being treated. It was very cold. It was cruel. Um, and I remember saying to my grandmother, "Is that why you always tell me that when people send their family members there to die,
Oh my
they
gosh.
don't care how they're treated, but they send them there to die?" And way back in the day, that was kind of like the mentality. And today's it's different. The busy lifestyles, and we're all hoping that our loved ones have a better care than we can give them, or sometimes we can't afford to give up the job to be at home to look after them. There's lots of different scenarios that are going to play today, but we still want them to be treated properly, respectfully, and with care.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So then what was your transition into transportation like after that? You were like, I'm fed up. I can't do this anymore. It makes me too mad. Did you go directly into driving?
Probably a very short time frame afterwards that I did. Like I started off driving school bus because I had a bun in the oven and one in a car seat, and it worked well because I could take my son on the bus with me and drive, and it was ideal when my kids were small because when they were at school, I drove a bus and I was home in the summer months, and it helped supplement the income coming into the house a little bit. So
Mm-hmm.
it was great, but I can finally remember my son was in grade 8, getting ready to go into high school, and I just looked at my husband and said, I am sick of dealing with people, right? Um,
And you were still driving school buses up until this point?
yes, school
Okay.
buses. I did some charter work too.
Okay.
Um, and the big thing for me is like the school boards implemented the zero tolerance policy, um, which would be cool if they actually enforced it.
Sure.
And I got into the scenario as a bus driver of I had two boys that got into a fight on my bus. One of them was a bully, right? He always picked on the little kids. He was a giant of a boy. And I got in between the middle of the two of them in order to get him to stop hitting the younger one. And I got disciplined for
Yeah.
it because you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to touch them, like call in. Well, by the time I radio in through a radio to a dispatcher who calls the school, who either gets somebody from the school out or the police out, you know, that child could be severely hurt,
Yeah.
right? Um, so to me that was my final kind of breaking point, was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. So then I started driving. I just said that to my husband. I applied at MacArthur Express with my BZ license.
Mm.
Um, and they were like, okay, but this is different than driving a school bus. I said, yeah. I said, I know it is, but this is
Like,
what I
thank
want to
goodness for that. Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
this is what I want to do. And I just need you to give me a break. I'll prove it to you. So that's what happened. I started there. I drove a six-wheeler or one of the eight-wheelers. I run emergency expedited freight. I did a lot of the five boroughs of New York. Um, and then there I got my A learners, and I had the different guys there teach me my skills and backing up and circle checks and how to replace headlights, you name it. I learned on the job probably for about 6 months, and the rest I say is history.
Wow. So then did you stay there for the remainder of your career behind the wheel, or did you have a couple different spots that you were? How long were you driving for?
In total, I've been driving over 30 years since I've had my commercial license.
Dang.
I only worked at 3 companies. So I was at MacArthur Express. Then my husband got his license. And we wanted to drive team.
Hmm.
So we went to J&R Hall in Air. We worked there for about a year and a half. Um, but it was a lot of running as a team. I found it was just too much pressure at that particular company because they run through Canada, and I wanted something that was a little bit more home time.
Tell me, tell me a little bit about what it was like working with him at the same time while having kids at home. How did that work-life balance kind of come out? Because you're obviously getting time with your spouse, your significant other, and that's amazing, but you're both leaving the home at the same time. Is that kind of what the end of that was for you and why that happened? Or how did that all play out? How long did you do that for? Sorry, so many
So
questions.
we drove team for over 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So um, we were fortunate enough to be able to do it because my parents lived close by. So my mom watched them, but they were in high school, right?
Okay.
So my son had his license, right? So it wasn't the same as having young kids at home.
Hmm.
Um, so it made it a little easier to do that. Um, my husband started off as my trainee in the truck and learning, and then we started doing team. And, there were times I would tell him, I can remember the one time I pulled into a rest area in Alberta. We were going over to BC, and I pulled in there and I slammed on the brakes. He goes, "What are you doing?" And I looked at him and I said, "I am sick and tired of your shit. I'm getting out, and you take this load to BC."
Oh my, oh my gosh.
And I said, "I'm taking a walk." He goes, "It's like 5 kilometers to the next town." I'm like, "So what? I'm mad. I'll be there in no time. And I'm going to call my dad, and my dad will come get me." And he just looked at me. He goes, "You're dead serious?" I said, "Yes, I am."
Okay, I want to be very careful what questions I ask because I don't want to dive too deeply into your marital problems. But what was it like? Okay, so what was that like navigating this is your person that you're with all the time and you're in the truck together and you're teaching him and supporting managing him? What did that dynamic look like?
Well, I told him he was a bleeping snowflake, and the snowflake needs to stay in the bunk with the curtains closed if he can't handle it, right?
Okay.
And Lord love him, I loved him to death. He was my rock, he was my person, he was my everything. But anybody that knows him, and the guys that we all worked with at Sharp, they he was affectionately called Snowflake.
Okay, why? When you say if you can't handle it, what does handling it look like? What does that mean?
He wasn't big on driving in snow,
Okay.
right? So snow was a now it could be windy out, it could be 90-mile-per-hour winds, wouldn't bother him in the least. But snow was a totally different ball game for him. It made him really, really nervous, right? Whereas for me, it never bothered me. So, but there's nothing worse than that nervous person sitting beside you who's got their hands on the dash, right? Or the nervous person that's driving because they're so nervous because of the snow that their knuckles are clenched on the steering wheel and they're going like this, right? So it's just kind of like, I'm really big believer that everybody needs to know their own limits, right? Um,
Mm,
and it doesn't make you a less of a person because, hey, I don't like driving in snow, or hey, I don't like driving in wind. We each have something. Um, and so park, be big enough to know that you can't handle those situations. It's not for you because a nervous driver on the road is worse than a cocky driver on the road.
mm, yeah.
Right? So, and that was just it. And I mean, Chris, that was probably one of a few times, right? And um, another time I remember telling him, like, we were arguing and he's like, "Oh, you just don't know what you're talking about." And I'm like, "You know what? Why don't you go sit in the trailer for the rest of the ride home? I don't need you to drive. I've been doing this longer than you."
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely that piece of it.
But it's very different. It takes special people to be able to do that because we worked together, we played together, and we lived together. Like, people would often comment because we were in the truck all the time together. But when we were at home, we were always together doing things,
Just tied to the hip.
right? It's just the way it was. And, do you want to hear a funny story? I can tell you a funny story.
Sure.
So we were home, and he was getting ready to go out on his bike. He had a Harley, and I affectionately called that bike his mistress. Right?
Okay.
In the summer months, he was on the bike doing more stuff than we would go out and do something. So it was known as his mistress. And I was out with my mom, and we're heading to my brother's house, and my phone rings, and it's Chris's mom. And she says to me, "Oh, is Chris with you?" And I'm like, "Oh, no, mom, we're home for a few days." "Oh, okay." She goes, "Well, where is he?" I go, "Oh, he's out with the mistress." Right?
Probably
She
she didn't
goes,
get it.
she's like, "What?" I said, "He's out with the mistress." And she goes, "And you're comfortable with that?" I said, "No, but what am I supposed to do about it? Like, I've tried talking to him, mom, and he's just not, like, he just doesn't listen." And she was like, "Really? All right. Well, I'll talk to you later."
Oh no.
Right? 10 minutes later, my phone rings. It's my husband. "What the hell did you tell my mother?"
Oh man, I'm
Yep,
placing their toys.
yep. And he goes, "She chewed me out. I have to go up and see her this afternoon now. So we couldn't talk about my mistress."
That's so good. Oh my
Oh, yeah,
goodness.
and it just like he never lived that down, him and the mistress, right? So it was kind of right, and yeah, so
I love
you know,
that.
we everything that we did usually we did together, right? We went camping, salmon fishing was our big thing in the fall months. So yeah, it takes a special couple to be able to do both, right?
Definitely. Definitely. What would you say, because you said you were doing that for 18 years. Did you do that at the same company for 18 years at Shark or Sharp? What did you say it was?
Sharp Transportation is
Okay.
where we drove 16, just over 16 years together as team.
What kept you there for 16 years? Like so many emotions flying, so many different things. You trained him, you worked together, you had best days and worst days, and I imagine a significant part of that was being together. But what kept you there for a very long time? Like talk to our driver managers who are like, how did you keep this person for so long? What did that look like?
The company culture.
What was great about it?
I was respected, I was valued, and I was a name. I wasn't a number,
That's a big one.
right? So, and people often ask us when we first went there because we took a pay cut from what we were making when we went there,
Hmm.
right? But everything isn't always about the bottom line money wise, right? Um, I I have to be home at Christmas, right? There's no bones about it. And I'm right up front with that before I started any company. But any other holiday, if I'm out on the road, I'm out on the road. Don't matter, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
together, right? But Christmas, we have to be home. We got kids, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and the home time, the fact that if they said, okay, well, I need 3 days at home on this day to this day because I got a wedding or whatever, they always made sure we were home.
Hmm.
There was no, you can't have that off. When we were off, we were off. My phone didn't ring. My dispatcher wasn't calling and bugging me and asking me when I was ready to go out. Could I leave early? Could I take a load today? No, I was valued. My home time was respected.
That's
Right.
important. Yeah,
Those things
absolutely.
go a long, long way. And, I can remember calling in one day. We were picking up a reload to come back. We were having problems with the shipper. Called in, actually got the owner, Sean Barrett, on the phone. And the shipper is beacon off, and he could hear him through the phone. And he goes, you know what? Nobody talks to or treats my drivers in that fashion. Close the doors up and leave. I'll get you another reload. Start heading this way.
Wow. Wow.
Right.
Love that.
Right. So respecting your drivers is all areas of that. Right.
Yeah, and not just with your driver appreciation week or with just knowing your name, which is not an insignificant thing because it doesn't happen everywhere, but actually following through with that and standing up for you on the other side of that and what that looks like in your active day. That's really amazing.
Well,
So
and in
respecting your
reality,
drivers.
what is driver appreciation day? Right? That so-called week that's supposed to happen.
Hmm.
Well, it depends on what company you work for. It depends on what province you're in. Ontario does nothing, right?
Really? I don't know that I knew that. I know
Yeah,
that we have Driver Appreciation Week, but I didn't really realize that Ontario doesn't
like so
necessarily
when you're
partake.
doing that, like if you're in Nova Scotia, um, they're out at the scales, they're handing drivers loaded goodie bags, they had a pop-up barbecue at them. It's that way in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC, and Ontario, nothing.
Hmm. Well, we could get really deep in that, or we could just skip right past that. I don't think that's our spot to dive into today. So I'll keep on
No,
rolling us
but I'm
forward,
just
but
saying like
take note.
but it's the little things that I think,
Yeah,
companies boil it all down to wages, right? Oh, my drivers want more money. It's a money thing. No, they just want to be treated well, right? So when you treat them well, they stay. I know drivers that are going on 25, 26 years with their employer,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So those things really matter, right?
They do. They really do. They really do. So then your transition out of the truck and into, did you immediately go to WTFC when you were done driving, or what was that kind of transition like for you? How did that happen?
I was still doing WTFC in the truck. So
Okay.
juggling it from the truck when I officially incorporated it all in 2016. So for almost well, just over 3 years, I was doing both. And then
Dang.
time off to attend events. So that was my home time. Um, and sometimes if it was too much, depending on where I was going, my husband would still go out and run. So our truck was still moving. And, we have an employer that we needed to be responsible to. Um, he was very accommodating, which helped me do what I do that much easier.
Hmm.
Um, and then after my husband was killed on the job, I had to, make a decision, and it was hard. I took one more run solo, um, and it wasn't the same for me,
Sure.
right? Um, so it was kind of then and there. I can remember coming back in and talking to the boss and going like, I don't think this is for me anymore. I don't think I can do it without Chris. Like
Sure.
it's not that I couldn't physically do the job. I'm not capable of doing the job.
Of
Um,
course not.
it was the memories, and it was too soon, I think. Right.
Hmm.
Um, and my mom had gotten sick, so it was just like, I was being pulled all over the place. So I stayed at home, and then, COVID hit, which changed everybody's lives. And I just came to the realization of, okay, so do I just focus on WTFC and try to make this grow into the organization that I believe it can be, and be the support network for women that I know it can be?
Hmm.
Or do I just totally shift and find myself that job and get going. So that was a struggle in itself, making that decision to, you know, fully focus on what I'm doing. But in the long run, I think I made the right decision. And so I'm happy with it. I still get out in the truck with my husband, my new husband, once in a while. So I keep very well connected in the driving population. And so, yeah.
Nice. So, what was the original intent behind WTFC when you were first starting it and it was kind of like really coming together? What was the purpose of it? What was the original thought behind the creation?
Just felt there wasn't a safe place for women to network and grow.
Hmm.
So that was one of my things. And my other thing is um, getting trucking into the minds of youth,
Hmm.
right? Because I'm so sick and tired of hearing about, we need drivers, the empty body, the seats, the seat's empty, I need a body. And it's just like, you can bring over all the temporary foreign workers you want. You can bring over all the new immigrants that you want. But if you're not going to get back into the school system, we're never going to have a future. And it's just going to be this constant revolving door, right? Um, so
Say
how
it
do we,
loud for the people in the back.
yeah, right? So it's just like, this is what we got to do, right? So I really wanted to focus on those things. And, it's taken a while to get people to realize that what we're doing can make a positive impact. Um,
Hmm.
and, we still have those people that question our value to the industry. Um, and I'd like to, yeah, I bite my tongue because it's not polite to say what I'm thinking in my head to that question. We bring a lot of value to the industry.
We do.
We have a very strong team of women
We do.
that are very focused on what they'd like to see happen go forward, right? And very focused on the fact that, you know, we're still a predominantly male dominated industry, but we're changing those numbers and we are stronger together and our voices are stronger together. And
Hmm.
I think it's important too is that, you know, regardless of what sector women are in, our voices are stronger when we all come together as one. Right?
Absolutely.
I think we have accomplished a lot of that with WTFC. I mean, we have women that are not even in the transportation sector at all. They love what they do, what we do. They love what we stand for. Um, they are helping us to grow. I think this mentorship program that Jackie's done up for us is just going to be like,
So good.
yes, it's going to be so good. So excited for that to come out. Um, and I think it's really going to help women grow within our sector.
Hmm. Absolutely. So do you think that today, because I've most certainly seen that vision, the original vision, come out through everything we're doing today. Do you think that that's still the direct path that you're going down, or do you have anything else that you're now working on to fight with WTFC? Is there anything that's changed kind of through the past, is it 11 or 12 years this fall? Is it 12 years this fall?
No, so since 2016, so 9 years.
So 10. I thought we had the 10-year anniversary a year ago. I'm crazy. Never mind.
Yeah. So, yeah. So this will be the 8th year for bridging the barriers. So, it's exciting. I think
10
that that
years.
we are going on a really good path.
Hmm.
Um, and right now, I don't see like our vision and goals changing at this point, like that direction. Um, because to me, those are still really areas of concern,
Hmm.
right? That we still need to focus on. So, um, but as I say, it's always about being open. And I think, you need to be an outside of the box thinker. Um, I love connecting with women in all different sectors. Um, we share powerful things together. And I think that's important. We recognize each other's work, I think, which is important. Supporting each other is important.
Certainly. And you support people like nobody I've ever met, to be very honest. Like your desire to just help humans, any human in front of you. Like I've seen you walk up to random strangers and meet them and be like, I got 5 people to introduce you to. Give me the list. Like it's crazy. Your desire, your drive, your dedication to helping, a decade of dedication to helping in this way. That's really impressive. Do you have anything specifically that stands out, whether from your first part of your career behind the wheel or now behind the desk, specifically in transportation? If there's a female out there who's like, I really want to get into this industry. I'm so interested. I have no idea where to start. What would you say to that person?
That person is my rock. And WTFC wouldn't be where it is today without her. Uh,
Mm,
without her ability to just listen as well as give advice, right? That person that when I have gone, okay, this is it, I can't do this anymore. It just doesn't feel like I'm getting anywhere. It doesn't feel like I'm making a difference. Who's not afraid to slap me upside of the head and go, yes, you're not done yet,
mm,
right? Who is, you know, believe more in what you're doing. You are making a difference, right?
yeah.
So I think, so it's important for people to understand that, even though you're perceived as a leader, you still have doubts, right? And you still have days that you're just like, am I doing the right thing? Am I going in the right direction? Am I making a difference? Is it time to let somebody else take over the reins? Like maybe I'm not doing something right. And now when I have those moments or days, I look at myself and go, okay, you need to recharge your batteries. You need some time off. So shut down the phone, shut down the computer, and recharge your
Hmm.
batteries and take the time to give yourself a different perspective.
Hmm. I love that. Well, you kind of answered my next question for me, but the what do you say to that person? You are needed. You are everything. You are what we want. Like you're you're the future of our industry, so don't be afraid to come forward and start taking that position is amazing, but followed by which was going to be my next question, and you can answer this separately if you have a different answer, but I love what you've already said just around if there's one thing you've taken away from this journey, what would that be? What would your piece of advice be to somebody else who's in a more similar situation to you? And and your advice around knowing your boundaries and setting time for yourself to treat yourself like a human, which we spent about 20 minutes talking about before we hopped on here. Like in a work from home life, in a digital world, how do you kind of separate that and the importance of continuing to take care of yourself? Is there anything else that you would say? Like if somebody is in that leadership position, probably not in the same boat as you. There's not many people out there who are sitting in the same boat as you, but lots of people, lots of women and men in leadership over other women and men. Is it prioritizing and making sure that you're taking care of yourself so you can care for the other people around you? Or do you have any other advice that you'd give to that human?
No, that would be my big pieces of advice is self-care, knowing your boundaries, like and setting those boundaries and sticking
Mm-hmm.
to those boundaries. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's really important, but it's also important as a leader to respect the boundaries of your employees as well. Right? So
Absolutely.
if,
Absolutely.
you know, you don't answer an email on Saturday and Sunday, don't expect them to. Let
You
them
don't
work.
drive in. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, right? Like we have to respect our employees or the people we work with just as much as, we respect our own time and boundaries. But I mean, not taking the time to recharge, we are seeing a lot more of, in particularly women, 51, 52 years old, heart attacks, in some cases dying from those heart attacks, not realizing that the symptoms are different than men, right? Because we're not taking care of our own health first and our own boundaries first, right?
Hmm.
So you can't lead with compassion and empathy if you don't have self-care down.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And you can see that kind of through your full story. Just when you were originally in the truck and you're like, you don't drive in the snow. Don't push yourself to do something that you aren't comfortable doing. Know your boundaries and then stick within them. But I think it's also so important to note, I love what you said, like know your own boundaries and don't expect other people to play outside of what you are doing for yourself, but also understand that other people have different boundaries than you do. And sometimes that might be more specific or more niche than whatever you're experiencing. So just because they're not responding to you on a Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, like I'm happy to hop on my emails. Let me tell you, I don't have good boundaries. I'm working on it. I don't expect that from my employees, though, just because they're not the same as what I've got. And we need to create room and grace for other people who feel and experience the world differently than we do. But
Yeah, and I think it boils down to, Hannah, when I first started WTFC, I never missed an email. Like I was on them right away. Didn't matter when they come through the phone, what day of the week, right? Constantly, constantly, constantly. And then all of a sudden I had this realization of who in the hell am I trying to impress?
yeah.
Right. And that was my wake up call because I was getting burnt out, right?
Mm,
Like it was creating burnout. And so now I've gone to that, like I don't answer them Friday after a certain time, right? I'll respond to emails over the weekend on Monday. Um, unless you're in that close circle, you can wait till Monday,
yeah.
right? If I'm on holidays and I've redirected my email, if it's that important, reach out to the person I've told you to. Otherwise, I'll answer you when I get back.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard somebody yesterday say in a meeting though, like I went on vacation, I got about 1,200 emails. I responded to every single one of them. I was away. If this was urgent, if this is immediate, let me know. And then he deleted everything. He's like, I only got about 20 responses. He's like, and those were the 20 that I responded to. But so regularly, just like what you said, we're running against ourselves to try and live up to random things that we're like, that's not necessary. That's so outside of what your realm of responsibility is right now. But you can fine tune it better. So so I think that that kind of leads me nicely into my one of my last two questions for you here. Just because you've been doing it that way doesn't necessarily mean that that's how you should be doing it in the future. We were talking about let's debunk a transportation myth, and you had said earlier you're like one of the most frustrating things I hear is this is how it's always been done. Talk to me a little bit about that. Why should we be working against that?
Well, I think we have to look at it this way. We've always done it this way. We have the same issues with retention in the truck driving population since back in the 90s, ever since
Mm.
deregulation today. We've always done it this way worked? No, it hasn't. We have to change the way we look at it. We have to think outside the box. And, we need people in management and owners of companies that have been around since the hands of time. In some cases, I love some of you guys to death, but it's time for you to retire.
Hmm.
Need the younger generation in the saddle. They have a different outlook on life. They understand their generation better than any of us. I mean, I'm 57 years old, right? I've learned a lot, especially from you, Hannah, about how your generation thinks. Am I an expert? No, I'm not. Do I know it all about them? No, because I'm not that age. Do I still have those moments when I think to myself, what the heck? Like, they're freaking entitled little buggers, right? But in reality, they're not, right? So take the time to learn from them, take the time to grow from them. You know, are we always going to have that little bit of subconscious bias? Yes, right? It's just our generation because we were brought up hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work. That comes before everything and anything else. I don't care if I'm almost dying and I'm basically roll out of bed to get to the bathroom. I'm going to work.
Yeah, someone told me the other day, they were like, I'm gonna go to the office on the day of my funeral. I was like, pardon
Right?
me?
Or the saying of, there'll be plenty of time for sleeping when I'm dead.
Mm,
A lot of my generation has that mentality because that's the way we were brought up, right? I think we can learn from the younger generation about the self-care, about the boundaries. You know, we can learn a lot from them. Now, I'm never going to be 6 to 8 hours playing on social media because, that's hard on the eyeballs. And you'll regret it when you get older. So all you young people pay attention to that.
yes,
But
ma'am.
you know, but we can learn and grow from them. And we're really not going to change the culture in our industry without more of their input, right? We need to see more women, particularly in C-suite and management roles, more CEOs of company, more CFOs, owners of companies.
Absolutely.
Right? Their ideas and their thought processes are different. Right? You can be a company that's spending, I'm just going to throw a ballpark figure out there, $3,000 a month on an advertisement in a magazine for a driver. Or you can hire a younger generation person to do some social media marketing for you and get better results.
Oh my gosh, yeah, give me your $3,000 a month. I'll help you. I promise. Don't put that in a magazine.
Right? Um, and it's like the imaging and the pictures that we use. It's always the same. Stop using stock photos. For the love of God, stop using them. It's an insult to every single woman in this industry. It is an insult,
What do
right?
you mean by that?
You got 5 companies all using the same pictures of a woman in a truck representing their company, right? Stop using all the same. You have people that work for you. You have women that work for you. You have some incredible young men that work for you. Focus on them,
Hmm.
right? Right? Do that short little 1, 2 minute video. You can do it with your cell phone, right? Showing them on the job, whether they're driving a truck, whether they're a mechanic, whether they're a dispatcher, whether they're in recruiting, whether it's management. Those short little video clips showing real people talking real about your company will benefit you in the long run.
Hmm. That that is very true. That is very true. I also stand on the side of perfection paralyzes the process of progress. So if you have to use a stock photo every once in a while to get something out that you have to do, from my perspective in a different brain, I would say that that is not necessarily offensive, but I appreciate your perspective and you sharing because it's definitely something I've not really thought about before.
Yeah, because well, the thing is, when you talk to drivers, they're sick of looking at it, right? Like,
Hmm.
and that same woman represent all these companies. Now we know it's stock photos, but then it's a case of, can you not pick from a different stock photo company? Like, are you all using the same?
That's true. If you've seen it before, don't use it again. But it's insane and not realistic to see everything. But yeah, you're right. There's
And then
only so many good ones.
you've got the struggles with AI, right? Because you look at our conference where one of our board members out west, it was a picture of her husband driving a truck for a company that he's never driven for, but it was an AI generated photo.
I don't remember much about that. But we don't have a ton of time to dive into that. I'm gonna ask you my last question instead, and then people can ask you about that later, should they be should they be so inclined. But I lied. I have two more for you. And we're getting to the end of our time, so I want to make sure we roll through them. We want to talk a little bit about the human trafficking side. I want you to give your human trafficking awareness tip. And then I want to ask a little bit about what's next for you, because you've got a new non-for-profit that you're doing with this whole human trafficking thing. But start us with your tip. What would that one be?
I think the biggest thing about human trafficking is people still believe it's a myth and that it doesn't happen here in Canada. And I want you to remember that, you know, we need to wake up and we need to realize that it is happening to boys and girls right across our country. And it's not just underrepresented or the poor population or the indigenous population. It is happening everywhere equally. Our children's mental health is poor in a lot of cases. Between what happened during COVID, excuse me, the fact of the online bullying and all that stuff that they go through at school, it makes them susceptible, right? We have all this social media and internet, all the things we didn't have before, you know? So your kids have the ability to talk to people from all over the world, right? So we need to start having as more open and honest conversation as parents with our children and need our children to understand that it doesn't matter what you say, what they say to you, that you're listening and not speaking to them.
Hmm. Yes. 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 Let's play it twice. We're listening to them and we're not speaking at them when we're having conversations, most certainly. But I like that's a good tip. It's a good reminder. It's happening on our highways. It is not just happening in other countries. It's here.
It's here.
Yeah, that's good. In a different light, give us a little preview. What's going on with human trafficking, HR awareness? No, what's the new name? Gosh, I know it. I just can't think
It's
of
the
it.
no human trafficking.
No human trafficking. Okay.
Spelled with a K.
Pardon me?
Spelled with a K,
Spell with a K. Yes.
right? So it is its own nonprofit organization. We are halfway through the charity status. So we are just waiting. All the documents are in at the government. So we're just waiting for the government stamp of approval. Excuse me. And we'll start going forward with that. Um, it has its own website. It has its own board and its own team that are working on the human trafficking.
Mhm.
Um, it will always be connected in part to WTFC because that's where it started. But
Sure.
it's its own entity. It's totally different than what we do at WTFC. Um,
Hmm.
but I felt the need to branch it off to give it its own identity, to start working more with different partners. Um, we have some visions for it and things that we'd like to do. Having the charity status will allow us to offer tax receipts, um, especially with some of the ideas that we have that are a benefit to those companies that are willing to help us out or see our vision.
Absolutely. I'm very excited about that for you and for what that can do for the community around us. And as we're launching off, give the people something to be excited about. Give us a little sneak peek. What's going on with you in the next year, in the next couple years? What do you see in your near lineup?
Well, I have decided to take a leap of faith and start doing some public speaking outside the transportation sector. So that is my next step. Um, so we'll see how that goes.
I am so excited for you about that. If someone's just finished listening to this and they're like, "Hey, I'd love to book Shelley as a speaker," do you want to let them know what you'll be talking about, or do you want to make them come back for more later? You can go either way.
So basically, what I'm going to be talking about is how that scars and not being broken. So I think it'll be a little bit of my personal journey and ways to help women or anybody for that matter cope, and move forward.
Love that. It's your message of hope.
Yes, the message of hope.
Very, very good. Well, if your employees need a message of hope, if your board, if your conference, if your whatever is looking for a message of hope, Shelley is available and ready to come and bring it, but has been bringing it for the last decade with WTFC. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with all of us and walking us through a little bit. I think that I was able to learn a lot about who you are in your journey and a lot about the industry as well, just through some really good pieces here and there and everywhere about what you've been talking about. But thank you for taking some time to give this to everybody. And we'll be excited to see where this summer series goes next year. Maybe we'll bring it back for another round. Maybe not. We'll have to make the people wait and see. But this has been great.
Always a pleasure talking with you, Anna.
And thank you to our listeners. This is the last one that will be going out. So if you've listened to every single one of these episodes, if you've come through this series with us this summer, thank you for taking some time to learn a little bit about WTFC, what we do, what we want to do, and hopefully we can work together. But have a wonderful fall, everybody. That's when this will be going out. I hope you're getting ready for a great season, and the conference season will be starting soon. And we will see you very shortly for our 8th Bridging the Barriers conference. Very exciting.
Excited for that.
Absolutely. But bye, everybody, and we'll see you soon.